Good afternoon. Welcome to the tea table. I am so glad you've joined me. I'm going to pour out of my little pot. I'm using Tetley black tea today, and I'll have a little bit of milk. And I want to go back to England today because we want to honor the Queen today because of Prince Philip and his passing. And we want to honor him as such a great man, and their longevity is over the top. Queen Elizabeth is always been very special to me. My second name is Elizabeth, and she's been my queen all my life. I think she's been all of our queen, and she's not just the Queen of England, she's really the queen of the world, right? She's a special lady. She still rides a horse at 94. Unbelievable. And goes and does her duty and takes care of her dogs. She loves her dogs, and she is always the same. Dignified, beautiful, kind, good. A real reflection of God's love, truly. Well, in honor of her, I am having special tea at my table, and I am using my Ainsley china, which is my very best china. And my husband and I got this when we were married. This is cobalt blue, and do you see the fleur-de-lis gold? Now, I did not realize at the time, but Ainsley is also the Queen's china. It's a different pattern, but she has Ainsley. And this is the cup inside. And then I have this other place, this plate. And I have always thought in color. I just was made that way. All my life, the days of the week are colors. Monday is green, Tuesday is blue, Wednesday is yellow, Thursday is brown, Friday is black, Saturday's red, and Sunday's pink. It just was born in me. And I think in color. And when I see Queen Elizabeth, I always thought royal cobalt blue all my life. And so this china really suits her, to honor her today. And a dear, dear friend of mine who deals in antiques brought me the most spectacular birthday gift I want to share with you just 2 weeks ago. And it is a tray. If you look close, it commemorates Queen Elizabeth. It's commemorating, I'll hold it again a little bit. It's commemorating her silver jubilee, which happened in 1977. And it has her heraldry. And one of her statements is, God is my help. What a beautiful statement. And then looking through my house, I thought, well, I have other things. Now, here is a commemoration that they made for her 50th year, even though it's her very young. And then, she's had 60 years. And now, within the next couple years, next year, 2022 is 70 years. And this plate is really special, I found, that I have had for a long time. This is Queen Elizabeth when she was very young and she was first crowned as queen. This plate goes back to that. It's commemorating her coronation. And I love different china. And this is brown china, and it's actually from Canada, it says. So that's really interesting. And has the various, if you look close, it has all her heraldry around the corners and around the trim. And so I just thought this would be fun today to think about her and honor Prince Philip. And you can watch on TV his funeral and all the documentaries that have been done on his life are worth seeing, but they're so well done. Instead of going into that detail, I thought that I would share a few things that I experienced at Buckingham Palace when I lived in London. And I was very young. It was in the 1970s. And I had an opportunity to work at an historical Christian library and bookstore in London, right across from Buckingham Palace. In fact, every morning, the men would come by, all the soldiers in their, the black big furry hats and the horse guard parade would come by and do their march every single day. I saw them. I would take the train in from Croydon to Victoria Station and walk up a few blocks, and then it's right there. Well, one day, the people that worked at this historical library, by the way, they were all definitely over 65, up to 70, and they were old school Victorian British people. It was a fascinating experience, and it was very formal. And I was the American girl, Miss Hanson. Miss Hanson, would you like to deliver our publication to the Buckingham Palace today? I said, oh yes, I would love to. So in those days, there was very little security. I don't even think the London Bobbies carried guns. I think they just carried a stick. And I walked over, the gate opened, no questions. I walked up to the door, knocked on the door. The lady came, and I said, I'm here to deliver the paper or the publication. And she thanked me. She was very gracious. And I had this feeling just on the grounds of Buckingham Palace, a peaceful feeling. And later I was told that in the corridors and halls of Buckingham Palace, you must speak in a whisper. There's no loud, jostling noises allowed. It's a very civilized, gentle, polite, dignified place. And then another day I had gone across and I was looking, and there came the Queen. I got to see her. She was in her car. She was dressed in a dress this color. These roses are peach colored, and that is the color exactly of her dress and hat. And she had the most beautiful skin. She was a beautiful lady in person, and she was waving and smiling, and her eyes were very expressive, twinkling, and very engaged. Lovely person. So that is my little memory of my Buckingham Gate experience. And the library really was a house. It was a Georgian row house. That means it was built during King George's era. Very much like the house in the King's Speech. Do you remember when you walked in or you went in that house and there was an elevator that was a cage elevator? That's what was in this place. It was a massive, high ceiling, a book room, and then back to the library. In the library, I don't know, the ceilings must have been 20, 25 feet high, because they had an actual ladder that I went on to go up to put the books away, up high shelves all around. And I met fascinating people in that book room. In fact, I met a man named Mr. Findlay. Oh dear. And he was his books were in the book room. And he said to me, everything in this room is total rubbish. The only thing worth reading are my books. And those were his books. And he had studied Daniel, Babylon. And he said, he didn't smile, but he said to me, if you want, I will take you to the British Museum, and I will take you and show you the Babylon Corridor. So I thought, fantastic. So I went with Mr. Philman, very formal. He took me in and he showed me so much. He taught me in that one afternoon so much that I retained to this day. He showed me the Rosetta Stone. That was the stone they found that deciphered the language so they could read hieroglyphics, remember? And there are literal pillars from Babylon there in the British Museum. And he showed me the mummy. And then he showed me a Viking ship called the Sutton Hoo. And it had been unearthed recently at that time. And all of the brass and the shields and the oars were intact. It was incredible. Now I believe it's gone into its own museum somewhere. But it's said there's more artifacts in the British Museum than there are in the Middle East. And actually, that's, I think, a good thing, because with all the war that's happened there, they may have been destroyed. So that was my little taste of real Britain. And then I met, through my friend, Heather, the one that was in York, I talked about at Easter. Her roommate at Nottingham College was the daughter of Lord Auckland. Now, in those days, in order to be a lord, you had to inherit the peerage. That means you had to inherit the title. So Lord Auckland, she said, oh, you need to go and visit my father at the House of Lords. Well, I thought, fantastic. So I went, and he took me on a tour of the House of Lords. You have to be invited, at least in those days. And I sat in the gallery and observed the debates and the discussion and the voting, and they all had wigs on, and it was just fascinating. Because, of course, the House of Commons is on the other side, and that's what you generally see on, TV. They rarely go into the House of Lords with the camera. Then he said, well, why don't you come and have tea in the Lord's tea room? Well, that was probably my best cup of British tea I have ever had in my entire life. It was so special. It was linen, silver, fine china, beautiful silver pots, and everything very formal. Chandeliers, beautiful. And then he said, let me show you something special. And there, sitting in a box with glass on top, a wooden table, he said, this document, this is the Magna Carta, one of the original copies of the Magna Carta, which really we look back to for our freedom. Magna means big, Carta means chart, the big chart, which basically said, if you're born on British soil, you are a free man. That goes to the year 1215. So that was very special. And I thought that's what I wanted to share with you today, something personal of what England really, I think, still such a very special place. And it is a busy, busy, busy city. And yet I found the people in London so polite, so helpful, and so engaging. And if you ever went into a taxi cab, basically, the cab drivers in London, they know more history than the PhD in America. They are so knowledgeable of that city, that area. In fact, they cannot be a cab driver unless they pass a very difficult test. Particularly, there's levels. The highest level is called the black cab, and those are the beautiful old cabs. You have to pass the highest level of exam. And London is complex. It's way beyond a city. London is a world. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you today. And I want to encourage you, have tea. And remember when you're having tea to invite someone. And if you're alone and having tea, well, you can have a cup of tea with the Lord. He's there. He doesn't leave us or forsake us. He doesn't change. And we can always talk to him. I hope you have a wonderful week. And thank you so much for joining me at the tea table. Hope to see you next time. God bless.